everyone. Thanks for hopping on here today. As she said, my name's Carly, and I'm an educator here at Singer, and I'm coming to you live from our office in downtown Nashville. And today we're going to be talking about machine embroidery on sweatshirts. Now, I can't really see the chat today that well, 'cause my setup's a little different. So, Sonny here, if you have any questions or anything, she'll be happy to jump in, or if I missed something that you guys mentioned in the chat. But I just recently started doing embroidery, machine embroidery this last year. I got my first machine. It was actually the SE 9180 here, which they sell at Michael's. And let me tell you, if you don't have a machine embroidery, and you've been thinking about getting to it, it's super exciting because as you notice, you go to the store, embroidery is all around us. And once you start getting into it, this Christmas, I put embroidery on like over 20 sweatshirts for my friends and family. So it's really fun to get into. And today we're just going to kind of talk about how to get started. You know, maybe you just got an embroidery machine, or you've got one and you don't know how to properly hoop it and add the stabilizer, all of that. So I'm going to kind of touch on that, as well as adding embroidery to your sleeves. And here's an example. This is a sweatshirt that was on the flyer. I put dog mom. Everyone loves a little representation of their pets. And then here's some sleeve embroidery where I put adopt, don't shop. And the other sleeve, which I can't really grab right now, has my dog's name with a heart. And I actually didn't even seam rip these. So I added these embroidery on the sleeve just by hooping it. And I'll show you that trick in a minute. So I'm going to start off coming over here underneath the kind of overhead view to show you guys the process of how we would typically hoop our fabric. So I'm using these standard Gildan sweatshirts today, and these are great. These are from Michael's. They have tons of color selection, which is awesome. Now, to show you guys a little bit about different types of stabilizer. So this is a tacky, sticky, tearaway stabilizer. You're going to put this in the hoop and it will stick to your fabric. But before we get there, so with knit sweatshirts, now sometimes people will actually add the hoop around the actual sweatshirt, but I'm going to show you a method today where you don't need to do that. We're going to stick the sweatshirt up on top of the hoop and with this sticky stabilizer. And we're doing that because sometimes when you add it, you stretch it, you really work it around to get it inside the hoop. And in doing so, you're stretching your fabric. And then when you take it out, it's going to kind of set back to its original position. And your embroidery can get a little wonky looking. It can kind of get a little wavy. So this method today kind of prevents that. So what you would do first before you actually hoop it, and I'll show you how we do this in a minute, you're going to want to turn your fabric the wrong side out, which I'm not going to actually do this part today because I'm actually using this sweatshirt in another class. So I'm not going to really fully, I have one already on the machine right now for the demo. But what you would do is you would first, flip it wrong side out. And then you're going to want to add cutaway stabilizers. There's several types of stabilizer, depending on your embroidery project. If it's a knit, a woven fabric, there's lots of stabilizer, and we have other resources out there if you're looking, maybe you want to embroider not on a sweatshirt. I would definitely check out those resources. But today we're just learning for sweatshirt. So what you would do first is you will want to add cutaway stabilizer. Now, I'll put it up right here. I don't know if you can really see the texture of it. It doesn't necessarily matter which side you put it on, but you can't really rip this. So what you would do is there's iron-on cutaway stabilizer, which you would just cut to size, put it on the back of whatever the area is that you're going to embroider, and then iron it on. But I actually use this Fusible adhesive today for my project. They do sell this at Michael's also, the spray and bond. And what you do first is, because this isn't the iron-on cutaway that I have, so I sprayed it on first, let it dry for a minute, and then you cut out your piece to size. And then once it dries, you take the iron it on, and then you can go ahead and flip your sweatshirt back the right side out. And that also adds that extra protection from its stretching. So this cutaway on the back, as well as the tacky sticky stabilizer. So now I'm going to flip it back right side out. So there's a couple tricks for getting your sweatshirt in the right place. So I'm not gonna mark it today with chalk or anything, because as I said, I'm using the sweatshirt in another class. But so say I wanted to put my graphic right here. So you could use a ruler and tape or some type of marker. This is a great chalk, or not tape, chalk, that kind of, I don't know, it just draws out like this. So say a good way to mark the sign of your sweatshirt too is sometimes I'll fold it in half and I'll iron it, and then that crease in the sweatshirt can be a good eye of like what's the center. But on your hoop, and here's a standard 170 by 100 hoop. Now this is the largest hoop that the SC9180 comes with. There are smaller sizes you can get as well. This is 100 by 100, and then there's this tiny size that is a 40 by 40, which is great for smaller projects. But you know, it depends on the project you're doing and the orientation of how you're putting it. I typically turn my graphics to be this way because I like to read it and know that it's going on this way, and I'll stick this part of the hoop through the neck. So I'm just going to show you how we first hoop our add stabilizer to our hoop with that tacky sticky stabilizer. Now, so this is what it looks like. There's actually a little covering that we're going to rip off in a second. But one side's a little bit more matte and one side is shiny, and we always want the shiny side up. So what you're going to do first, you see how the hoop comes apart like this. And there's a little arrow on the bottom. So you always want the Singer logo being on the bottom. You want to be able to see the Singer. A lot of times people accidentally flip it this way or backwards, but you want to make sure that this arrow matches up the arrow here. Now, because this is sticky, we don't want to rip this covering off at the beginning, because then our hoop can actually get a sticky adhesive on the outside. So what I'm going to do first is place it in here, just like this. You know, you want to cut it to size. These come on a pretty big roll like this. So first I cut it to size. And then once you put it on here, and this is the part when you hoop, I always recommend having a table or something flat you can lay it on, because it takes a little bit of an angling. You're gonna have to kind of press hard. I'm gonna loosen up my hoop here. So, and this is why I say I like to use the tacky sticky stabilizer, because imagine fitting all of this as well as your sweatshirt on the hoop. They're not super thick. So if you have a thicker fabric, using that sticky stabilizer is the way to go. So we're gonna make sure it's pressed in there nice and flat. Then I'm gonna tighten up my hoop. All right. And this is the part where it's a little bit of a trick. So like I said, I didn't want my hoop around these edges here to get sticky. So then I'm gonna use a pin. You can use a pin or like some scissors, but you wanna make sure you don't press too hard, because you don't wanna actually press through the paper. You wanna lightly just slice it open so you can rip off to reveal the sticky side. I don't know if you guys have been in my classes. I got my little hedgehog here with my pin. So I'm just gonna use a pin, and I'm gonna lightly drag it across just enough. Lines are not straight, so hopefully I can start ripping it. This is the part where I'm like, I need music to be like, so that's probably in the way. I'm gonna slowly just pick at it. Okay, so now it's kind of got it opened up, and you can use your pin again to get your parts that you ripped. I didn't do the best job breaking this. And that way the paper is still underneath the actual hoop, so it doesn't get sticky. That's good enough. I'm just gonna embroider in this one area, so I'm gonna see if this is showing. Rip it the rest of the way. Okay. So now you can see here the shiny side, and this is packed, it's sticky. And when you put it up to this soft knit, it will stick really well. Put my stuff out of the way. And all right. So on here, you can see these lines. These also are your center marks. So don't go by this here. Well, actually, I think that does match up, but sometimes people think that this is just straight in the center. But I always say refer to these markings. I'm gonna come around here to the front. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take the bottom of your sweatshirt and you're gonna push it up through and then find your center mark. So if you had marked it with chalk, like say I put an X here, exactly the spot I want it to be. Sometimes you can even take chalk if you want to draw, for instance, on your actual ruler right now, but pretend I do, to mark these lines as well. My chalk is not chalky. But that can be another way to get that matched up where you want it. So tuck it in my sweatshirt. Make sure it's nice and straight. And I will say that I had a marker here perfectly in the center. So you want to make sure before you really stick it on there, kind of gauge where you're at and the size of your design. But if you were doing it vertically, you could switch it, but you would have to make sure you always have that spot where the hoop hooks to the machine to stick out, whether it be a sleeve or the bottom side. So that's why I said I turned my design to be this way. And I'll show you that when I get to the machine. So then once you get in the spot you want it to be, you're going to press it down nice and firm, get it on there good. So that's when we're going to go over to the machine and hoop it. Before we do that, and I'll show you this in a minute, but with these machines, you're limited in space. So when you actually put it up and you hoop it, the word I like to say is manhandle. You're going to have to really stretch your sweatshirt and manhandle it because you want to make sure, you'll see here that the bottom of my sweatshirt is completely out of the way because that needle comes down into the front. And if you don't move this stuff out of the way, it's going to pierce the bottom side. It's going to be absolute disaster. So you want to make sure once you slide it in, you properly move everything out of the way. So I'm going to come back over here really quick. I'm trying to think if I want to show you the sleeves or kind of dive into the machine right now. So yeah, I'll show you the sleeve portion. So that's basically how you hoop and use stabilizer for the front of your sweatshirt. Like I said, way easier using that tacky, sticky stabilizer. But I'm going to show you if you wanted to do it on your sleeve. So this is the part that can be really tricky. And I don't know if you guys looked at my pamphlet I sent. The photo might look a little scary. But if you want to do the easy route, which means no seam ripping. So say I had that small design on the bottom of my sleeve that had my dog's name and a heart. In theory, it looks easy, which it is, but you have to really, again, manhandle your sleeve of your fabric. So you would do the same thing as before, where you flip it the right side out first, add that cutaway stabilizer by ironing on to add that added support, flip it the right side out, and then depending on the size hoop you'd want, so for instance, this is a smaller hoop I used, you're gonna have to really be strategic in how you place it. So you would actually open it up the sleeve just like this. You would really stretch it, place it on top of the, pretend I had tacky sticky stabilizers on here, and really stretch it around. Actually, I'm gonna take this back off, show you guys. Do it on the bar. Okay. So normally if you were doing a large sleeve embroidery, obviously the sleeve is too small. You're going to have to seam rip it up the side, open it up. But if you want to add a little name, a little heart, anything like that on the sleeve, the trick is this. So you're going to open it up, really stretch it out. And this is again where you would have it marked. You would place it strategically on your hoop. So you want to make sure that main area, and I would definitely mark your sleeve, is visible. And you almost make like a little bowl, like a little sleeve bowl, I guess, in that area. And it might look scary, but you're gonna make sure the bottom of the sleeve is out of the way, just like I showed you the middle of the sweatshirt. Now I have that area that I want to embroider right here. So you have to make sure also your design will fit in that space. So what I would do before anything, it's obviously stuck on there, it is sticky, but it's not gonna really hold these cuffs of my sleeve. So I'm just gonna take a couple pins, place them in here to add extra security around here. Because a lot of people think it is, you know, they think, oh, you have to seam rip to add sleeve embroidery. Well, you don't necessarily, I just lost the butterfly. I think in apart. You don't necessarily have to seam rip, but you just have to learn the right way to stretch and work this sleeve out. But you would add pins around in here, like just like this. Now you have your designated space. So what you do is you would go up to the machine, put it in, and as you get, once you get your needle in the place you want, and I'll show you this on the screen later, how you can move things around. You would have your hands on the side and just hold it down as it's embroidering. I would definitely be careful to make sure your hand's out of the way of the needle, but you would want to make sure you add this extra security so that way this doesn't pull up as well. So it's a little tricky if you want to seam rip or not, but that's kind of the process for that. Any questions so far, Simon?
No, I think people were asking about using the hoop, and they were also asking about the different stabilizers, but we're getting the answers.
Okay.
So,
and yeah, like I said, I have used regular, you know, people were doing sweatshirts, but once I switched to the tacky stabilizer, game changer, because you don't have to fit that thickness of your fabric between the two. So now I'm going to come over to my machine. I'm going to show you guys this project I started. So I don't know if my sister's on. She said she might watch it.
she is.
She's there?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. So she just got a new puppy, Rosie, and I was going to do this little sweatshirt for her to continue on the dog mom theme. So I already started this design, and the cool thing about the SE9180 is, one, it connects to your Wi-Fi and our MySonet. So I actually designed this Rosie font, all of that right in MySonet, and then I just hit a button and I sent it right to my machine. So I didn't have to do anything extra as far as using a USB, any of that. I used MySonet. Now I already did the first word, got it started, but what we're going to do next is add the paw. So I always like to ask the class, I know I asked Emily what color she wanted the word to be, but for the paw, I don't think I asked her this. I want to have the class vote. So for the paw, should I do pink, orange, or yellow? Emily, the class is going to decide your sweatshirt. What do we have?
Nothing yet. Nothing yet. I just wrote it out. So
Pink, orange, or yellow for
we have one orange.
the paw.
We have one orange.
Okay. No one else votes.
One pink. One yellow. Uh-oh.
Oh, okay. We need a tiebreaker. One more person. Pink, orange, or yellow.
And this was Emily. She said
great.
pink. So
Okay.
I think she gets to
Well,
decide,
see.
Carly.
Right. So one thing I wanted to show you guys when it comes to embroidery is this little tool right here. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this. I recently discovered what a thread net was when I started doing embroidery, and my mind was blown. So a thread net, these come with all machines. So I don't know if you've ever gotten a sewing machine, open it up, and you probably toss this in the trash, because that's what I did when I first saw these. So what it does, it actually helps. So embroidery thread is really slippery, and sometimes it slides off around the spool and gets wrapped around here. So I might actually zoom out a little bit. Sometimes it gets wrapped around the spool here at the top. So putting this thread net around your thread just adds this extra security to prevent it from sliding off. So I'm gonna, on what side we decided on pink? Okay. So I'm gonna show you guys how to use the thread net really quick.
And just by the way, Carly, pink was the winner.
Okay.
Even if Emily wouldn't
Yeah.
have said it. So
so to use this, you're just gonna slide it through the back like this. And if it's a longer thread net, like this one's pretty long, I just folded it in half. It covers the thread, might look a little crazy, but you'll notice now it slowly comes off versus this would normally just fall right off. So I'm gonna rethread my machine really quick.
And Carly, there was someone that was asking early about threading the machines, so if
Yeah.
you can like stand back a little bit and kind of as you're going along,
Yeah.
I think that's fine to see.
Like threading in general or
Just how easy it is, because it is pretty easy.
yeah. So now that I've got my thread net on, I'll show you. So, you know, usually you can see this uptick lever right here, but it's in here, but, first you're gonna go around part one. I always saw like a 4 to 6 part process of threading needle down around here and then put it around this lever. And then I do have a needle threader, so I'm gonna show you guys. There's a little hook always at the top of the needle or on the side that adds extra security. And then I have a little needle threader. I always forget which machine I'm using. So this one's on the side, but this little needle threader helps pull it through. So if you guys have one of these, and I don't know if I should zoom in or do it from the side.
Thank you.
This little lever right here. So I'm gonna just put it on here and then it pulls it through. Then you go. Sometimes it just catches. And where thread is slippery, so. All right, so I've got Rosie started. I'm gonna zoom over here so you can see. So the cool thing about the SE 180 is, you know, I did the first word and then I just press the pause button to have a break. So now that I have the pink thread in, and it's gonna just find the next spot to go to, which was the next design. And you can see here on the screen, it has, say I was doing a really big project that had multiple colors, it would have them all in order of what colors coming up next, so you know, and then also tells you how much the stitch count is for that thread. So this one has over 1,000 stitches. So then first you're gonna press play. It's gonna kind of find its situation. It says, please lower the presser foot. So once it gets in the spot, then you lower it. Then I'm gonna press play again. And what I like to do is I like to give it a few seconds to get started. And I'm gonna pause it. And I'm just gonna trim this loose thread out of the way that was hanging off. Start. I'll use little scissors for this. So this part might take a minute. I have my speed on like medium, but I'm gonna up my speed just a little bit. Sometimes you can go full speed with embroidery. I kind of like to go at a little medium speed. I'm gonna.
Carly, I always find it fascinating. I'd love to watch embroidery, even
Yeah.
though I've done it a lot. How about you?
No, same. It's funny because I get like in a daze, I think it will say like, oh, this, you know, sometimes you walk away, there'll be several colors, but I will just find myself sitting there like staring. I'm like, oh, I don't need to sit here and actually watch, but it's kind of fun.
The other thing, Carly, that I have a question for you on, from me, is how do you make sure that you're not like sewing the back of your sweatshirt?
Yeah, so we pause it again. So if you guys can see here, let me zoom out a little bit again. So once I put it in, so over here is where you would slide the hoop right onto the machine. This is, what is the name for this actually?
The arm.
The arm of the embroidery machine. So this little socket here, this little lever you push in, it makes a snap noise. And then that's when you first get it situated. And then that's when you would pull your fabric up from underneath. So as you can see here, I made sure there's nothing going underneath. It's all around the side and on the edges. And then this actually is underneath the bottom. So good question. I always just say double check because sometimes you might not realize it and you ruin your whole project, so.
Something else, Carly, that I think is really cool on the machine is on the screen. It's actually showing you where you are,
Yeah.
what you're actually stitching.
And another cool function on this, I was showing you kind of like the stitch count of that, but say, you know, your thread ran out, your bobbin ran out, whatever it be, and you paused again, but you didn't realize that it stopped and it didn't actually embroider that part. So there's a plus and minus sign down here, and you can go back to the exact stitch, like just keep the needle moving and it will go back to wherever you need to be to find the exact spot. So that's another cool function. Gosh, there's so many things I could go into as far as machine embroidery. Don't have enough time in this class, but just if you aren't familiar with the My Sewnet software, it's awesome. You can learn new projects, you can get more tips on embroidery, all of that, but we also have a whole embroidery library that's not just in the software itself, where if you want to search for anything different, we have tons, thousands of embroidery designs added daily. And I don't know, so, oh, it's on this camera. I was gonna say, if you want to show, so, and this is actually a denim shirt that Sonny embroidered. I love it. And you don't, this is on denim, similar practice. You could use the sticky stabilizer or you could use regular stabilizer and actually keep the denim, because this denim is not as thin. But if you were using a really thick denim, it's not as flexible and stretchy, again, you could use that sticky stabilizer. I just made a really cool video for Valentine's. Singer posted it. That I use this machine and I made tons of little hearts all over my jeans, and I would just simply move. I place my jeans on the sticky stabilizer. I would do a couple hearts and then move my jeans up, add some new sticky stabilizer, and then I just went all the way down my pant leg. It's covered in hearts. So a lot you can do with that sticky stabilizer. So we're almost done, and if you can see here, so when it switches between the like all pads, or you know, whenever it switches between a letter or anything like that, you might see there's a little thread that's connecting them, but I'll show you here at the end how we seam rip that. So I'm gonna zoom back out. So now our embroidery is done. And if it was, so say this was done with the rose before earlier, it would do the same thing. It would say, please change your thread color to just notify you like next thread, next design. But now it's done. So I'm gonna show you kind of how we move it from the machine. Raise, and this has a thread, so I'm gonna snip it one more time. It does. So I'm gonna raise my presser foot. I'm gonna go over to the side here, press this little button, push it, and then it slides out. You want to make sure you don't catch a needle or anything. I'm just gonna use it out under my presser foot. And look at that, Rosie. So then I'll show you kind of how the taffy stabilizer works. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pull it right off, just like this. It just tears away. You can set that aside. And now on the back, I obviously put way too big of a piece for my design, but this is that mesh cutaway. So what I would do now is pull this off. This adhesive will just go away in the wash. But I'm gonna get my cutaway as close as I can to the actual design. And you can, there's a little bit more tear away that I need to tear away here, but I'm gonna grab some scissors. I need these. I'm gonna cut it as close as I can around here, around the design. And probably on time, Sonia, I did make a little design that I wanted to put on the sleeve, but I didn't know if we would have time to do all that.
30.
Okay. I would just need to send it, so that really quick, but. So. It's kind of. And that's when you. Can use smaller scissors to get a little closer. It all depends. I honestly will cut my stuff and say that this is good, but if you want it to be like in between, you could go around and do all that, so, but. For the most part.
So Carly, what kind of thread did you use in the bobbin for this?
So I use, good question, because when I first started doing embroidery, I didn't realize that you had to use a special embroidery bobbin thread. This is like a lighter type of thread. It's like filament. So I don't know if you can tell the texture compared to, like, this is regular embroidery thread. But there's definitely a difference, and it's not as thick, so. But, and then you would just simply open up your hoop. And then take out your. So that way you can see that sticky part didn't get on there, so there will be none of that residue. So. Here. And voila. There's your sweatshirt, Emily, but I'll kind of show you guys also, so. Want to go the overhead again. This isn't too bad, but sometimes when you do really big complex designs, you'll have a lot of these little threads. So I'm just gonna use these little pointed scissors. But any part where it's kind of connected, you could just use a seam ripper. First, cut them. They're not connected. And like you can see here in between these letters, which is a little tricky.
Your sister's loving her sweatshirt.
Yay. And then I'll have to make one for her dog that says Emily on it. But, and then you just, cut it as close as you can down to the rest of the embroidery. And that is how you add embroidery to your sweatshirts. Now, we do have a little time. I was gonna, I would hate to not have anything on the screen. I was gonna try and hoop and show you guys on the sleeve. I have a little heart also. I would just need to send it over to my machine really quick.
1 minute.
Actually, how do I get out of my Zoom? Maybe I
I
can't.
don't know that you can.
Okay. Can I get in my vault from here? Let's see. I'm gonna show you guys some stuff on here. So,
Do you want me to be?
yeah, maybe put it back here. All right, so because we do have a little time. Now this connects to my sonnet, and you can see if I did save this heart. But we're just gonna search heart in the library, right on the machine. You can do stuff on your laptop within my sonnet, or you can go right to your machine. So here's some hearts that are already. And I want to find a really small one. I'm connected to the Wi-Fi right now. So you can see in our library, we have lots of options. And usually I'd say that's why you might want to go on your laptop. But okay, here's a simple heart. Let's do this. open. So now we're gonna go to the edit function, this little pencil icon. And now if I want to rotate it, anything like that, here's where you do that, but I also want to shrink it down. Might not actually have time to do this today, but I'm trying to, what is the size? Oh, right here, okay. So there, now I'm gonna shrink it down in size. I think that's a small, so it'll go. Okay. All right, let's come back over to this camera. So I'm gonna try and do this here in a jiffy. This one's already sticky, so we're gonna use this larger hoop. Okay. So I'm gonna put a little heart on the wrist of this sleeve. And here's the bottom. I'm gonna say right here, center part, for the sake of time, this is where the heart's gonna lie. I'm gonna get it matched up the best I can. Emily's sweatshirt might not be the heart might be a little offside, but for the sake of this class. So I'm gonna get it in there really good, stick it. Where's my hedgehog? Over here. And then I'm gonna add some pins. And I wasn't planning on doing this in class, so this is totally how it goes. As I said earlier, manhandle. Really stretch. I feel like I need music in here.
Everyone is kind of, they're all involved watching you.
Sometimes I feel like I wish the chat, like people could talk, because I'm just like, I can't see, and I'm like, okay. All right. I feel like this will be. And I'll do more of the holding once I get out there. Now, I just realized something though, I've been doing this, so this is again, not the best example. I didn't put the cutaway on the back. But because this is so small, it might not be as needed. So there we go. This is gonna be the space. Now I need to make sure that the heart actually is gonna fit in there. So we're gonna go back over here. And now I'll show you guys kind of how we actually put the hoop in.
There we go.
So I turn the heart that way because the hoop is gonna go in this way. I'm gonna slide it under.
So you did get a couple comments, Carly. Once someone just said thank you because she had to go a little bit early, but Paula says, we're sitting here on pins and needles watching you.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay. We love a good sewing fun. Okay, so now you can see it's not as lined up, it's a little closer to this. So what you can do is you can get it to be exactly just that. Then once you have it here, so I'm gonna make sure that this is. Can kind of. Move it. Once it's on the actual screen to be exactly on the sleeve. Where you need it, so. Let's say. We can go just like tiny steps or pull it to go a little further. Now. Instead, do we want to stick with the pink for the heart? I think we're gonna do the pink. as
I
well.
think we're gonna use
We'll
the
match the
pink.
paw, yeah, okay. So then, I'm gonna press play. Nope, make sure I press the hold. And then this is, I'm gonna actually slow it down a little bit, press it, pause again. This is the part I was saying, it gets a little tricky, so. And I'm gonna stand over here. Okay. I'm gonna really hold it down. Press play again. Now. Pause it one more time, I wanna make sure. Going a little close back here. All right, now I have a good space. And at first, sometimes when embroidery design starts, you're like, what the heck is it making? Because it will do like weird squiggles everywhere. So it really like finds its shape. And now we can just watch it again. Let's do that now. Okay. We'll see.
So thank you, Carly.
And now it's kind of on its plate, so I can remove my hand. I think I'm good. It's stuck pretty good now because embroidery is taking over.
This type of design you probably don't want to walk away from, huh?
No. I mean, on the sleeve, yes, I would say for the sleeve stuff, but this one it's pinned and you know, it could just move one tiny bit and the whole sleeve could just roll up, so. But yeah, if you're doing a big design on the front, I would definitely walk away, you know, you'll hear the beat too. When you need to change thread colors, all of that, so. I've actually started a project and gone to bed before. It is kind of like watching paint dry, though. You're like, eh.
So Carly, Kathy just asked, how do you recover from an error during the process? Do you have to figure it out and start over?
So it depends on the type of error. I would say that, if it misses a couple spots, you could just take it off the hoop and seam rip. And then remove what you started embroidering, but it just depends on the error. Cause I've had errors where it gets jammed in a spot and I'm not paying attention. It actually puts a hole in my sweatshirt. So it is important, even though I said you can walk away, I would definitely, decide on that yourself. Cause sometimes I've walked away and then something went wrong or my bobbin ran out and I didn't realize it. And, but yeah. So I don't know, do you have any other advice on as far as errors, like the best way to? Okay, moment of truth. So the heart is done. So I'm pull it all away. Move it from. Now, actually. There's like a little line that was. I'll zoom back out. Here's the heart. So then you just, same thing. I'm gonna move these pins. I love tearing it away. That's my favorite part. And voila. So now we have. Emily will have a heart on her sleeve. For Rosie. And that was super easy. And if you guys are wanting to embroidery, you're gonna get obsessed because my sister's in this chat. She could tell you for Christmas, I think I made over 20 sweatshirts for everyone. So it's super easy. You don't have to, they sell these at the store, embroidered sweatshirts for like $50. You can just put in some thread, put in a sweatshirt you already have at home or the Gildan ones at Michael's and add any design or logo you want. But I think that's all for today. Does anyone have any more questions or anything about, embroidery on sweatshirts and all of that?
Everyone, I mean, Jackie just said it was great to help her understand the process. So that's good. And people are enjoying the class, Carly. So
awesome. Well, and then on March 13th, I'm doing another class. I kind of wanted to do back to back how to update your sweatshirt and do stuff. So I'm actually going to teach on March 13th how to make a quilt block and add it to your sweatshirt too. So this is a quilt block I sewed on here. So if you want to learn that, come back March 13th. But thank you guys all for coming here today. It was great to see you in the chat. And yeah, maybe I'll see you guys on March 13th.